Good evening, everyone. In tonight's free video, quickly want to recap the Euro trade. So 2 weeks ago, we took a Euro trade based on a very specific pattern that we trade here. And one of the things I'll show you about it is you can see it. Well, you can see it rallied really close to that 1618. That's part of what triggered us to take short. Sold them. The following week, initially started to pull back. Ended up sideways again. This week, we've started pulling back. We'll see how this weekly close ends up. But one of the things I talked about in the room today real quickly is the, we use RSI. Like, people ask us all the time, what do we use RSI for? Is it really that important to our trading? Not necessarily. It helps us, but it's not important to our trading. In fact, there are plenty of charts that I have that don't have the RSI. But just like the RSI, candles are a fantastic way. And they, a lot of times, I think people have forgotten, but they can leave pretty good clues of what may be to come. And you can see here that after rallying up to 1618, there's resistance here. We had a triggered short. We sold them. One of the other things you can see is that the momentum started to sort of turn here. You can see that. You can see it started curving here. That was another sort of hint. But again, rules are rules, and we don't get away from that. But what's going to be interesting here is to see how this weekly close ends up. One of the things that you'll recognize if you look at really any chart is that when there's strong selling or strong buying, whenever that candle closes, typically there's follow through in that direction. It may not last a long time, but in most instances it lasts. As an example, you look at any candles here, you can see the strong closes to the downside, closing right near the bottom of the week, triggered, more selling. Even here, when it had hard selling, we closed here about 150 pips higher than here. It may not seem like that, but it did drop an extra 150 pips more within the 2 weeks. So every weekly closes are huge and important because they really dictate more than you would see on like an hourly chart probably, or 5 minute, I would say. Maybe not an hourly. They more than dictate the action that comes after it, that precedes it. And that goes with every market. So that's why when we talk about, say, the S&P, right? When we look at the S&P, or if we look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average, right? This is that notorious chart that we've looked at before. That's why when we look at charts like this and we see that the RSI is curving and you got like this hammerish close and not head and shoulders, and put that aside, the fact that there's a 618 retracement and we have a setup that based on our rules is telling us to sell. A lot of times when you see things like that, that may be suggesting that there is more to come. Even when you looked at this candle right here, it sold off hard, closed hard, and there was follow through. So it's going to be interesting to see how this S&P and this market close. Now the big thing that we're looking at really is the weekly chart, and you can see here how this is starting to look, right? Especially if we look at the spiders, you can see the same thing is starting to look here when we look at the monthly chart. It's looking interesting here, and if we start to see some selling here, I think if we see a candle close like this, I think that we're likely to see it pull down here. But the next 2 days are going to be extremely key because it's all going to depend on how this monthly close is. If the monthly close is really strong, then we could see some preceding action to the upside. If the monthly close ends up being sideways or slightly negative, which doesn't look likely we'll get negative, then we could see this market start to roll here. So keep an eye on that. But really, that Euro trade, again, going back to that Euro trade, it's simple. At the end of the day, it's as simple as following a set of rules. You follow the rules, you do what you're supposed to do, and at the end of the day, it's really a 50-50 shot. You're either going to get stopped out or you're not, okay? You have, obviously, probabilities of stopping out, right? We have like 65, 70%, so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, you get in, and the only thing that's going to happen is eventually you're either going to make money or you're not. And it's very important to follow that. So keep an eye on this. And again, for those of you in this trade, congratulations. Continue to follow your rules. Stay patient with it. And we'll see what happens throughout the coming weeks. All right, guys. Hope that helps. And again, 2-day class is next week. Make sure you sign up. There's a few spots left. We'll continue to use that code webinar, that discount code webinar. It will take $100 off. And again, I think we have less than 10 spots available. Make sure you take advantage of that if you want to before those spots are gone. 2-day class right here. More information here, and the syllabus is listed right there. Again, Hope that helps, and we'll see you guys tomorrow at StockTwits TV.